Beer.
Do. Get in the stream. Ready for people. It's recording now. Let's see. On. Save. And we are rolling. Boom. All right, we're on. All right, welcome to another Angry Streams. The person that you're about to see on screen with me is my good friend King Trout, and we are going to talk about some conspiracy theories today. And some of the things we're going to talk about is how some conspiracy theorists get in a little bit of hot water because of the things that they say and how people take them, whether or not it's, legitimate or not. Boom, and here we are. And there's my handsome man, King Trout, on the screen. Here
Hi,
for
Rich.
everybody to see. Let me see. I don't have anything pulled up for the window capture yet.
Yeah, I have a terrible setup for streaming because my computer's like 10 feet away from me.
Let's see, I got Ian Carrol pulled up right now.
That's what I was gonna
You know
try
what's
and
funny
start.
is I'll look at Rogan every once in a while, like clips will come up, and I'll be like, oh geez, Rogan, cool, interesting. Let me check out, what this guy's all about, and I'll watch it and I'll go, oh, that clip was interesting. Not the whole episode, but the clips that they put up on the YouTube clip channel. And Ian was on there, and I was like, oh, cool, conspiracy theory guy. And he starts talking about different conspiracy theories, and I was like, that's kind of interesting. And I've seen him around. I actually saw him on Twitter first, where he would talk about some of this shit that's like going on, and the back history to some theories that he has, and the doubts in different government organizations and why he has them. And I was like, oh, interesting. And then I saw him pop up on Rogan, and I was like, sweet, I'm going to watch it. And I messaged you, and I was like, hey, this guy is blowing up on Rogan right now. You want to like talk about some of his theories and like what's going on with him? And you're like, oh, I kind of know him. I was like, no shit.
Oh, my boy Ian?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in one of my YouTube videos, just for like a real quick cameo thing. We made a joke about him getting the Epstein client list, and then I'm on the phone with him, and he gets shot twice, suicided, and I'm like, oh, he must be going through a tunnel. Yeah, I didn't even know he was going to be on it until I opened up, I think, Instagram. And so, like, obviously we follow each other on Instagram, and yeah, it's like him in the the classic Rogan background or whatever. I was like, oh shit,
yeah,
well, boy Ian was on Joe Rogan,
dude. And and that's like not like a strange thing at all. Like there will be people that have. I'm not going to say that Ian has a small following. He's got a fairly substantial following. But
yeah,
there are people that like I've never heard of before, or I've just like listened to the other day on YouTube that he brings on because he's just like, that topic interests me, and they'll be like, and I'm not trying to make it seem like influencers are the shit. They're not, right? But they'll be like somebody with like just 50,000 followers on YouTube and 1,000 followers on X. And I'm like, where does he find these people? Like, who does he talk to in order to get these super interesting people that have no following on?
So I'd be curious. I'd have to ask Ian how that even came up, but I'm pretty sure he just like comes across, like, I think Rogan was just like, on whatever app, and he came up across it because he was, I first saw him on TikTok. I haven't used TikTok in like 2 years after they stopped paying me.
Yeah.
Chinese bastards.
When they kicked me off the platform, I said, fuck this. And I really enjoyed it because it was like a creative experiment. I was able to like figure things out and go, oh, I can do that with this. So it kind of like helped me create shit. But
that's how, I immediately was like, well, I guess Instagram's my app now. We'll build that up.
Yeah. That's the way I'm like on X now. Like Instagram and like and Facebook. Facebook fucked me over. They blacklisted me on Meta blacklisted me on Facebook. And then I'm like, well, if Meta's connecting Facebook and Instagram, like, well, fuck Instagram. So now I'm on X mainly.
Yeah, I'm on like a probationary thing on Instagram because I've had too many posts that have been in violation of the content policy. So there's like 7 within the last couple months, and I'm on probation until April. They're like, this is really your last strike. But everybody was talking about what's his name? Zuck.
Yeah.
Now that he's jacked and he's on test and does jujitsu, everybody's like, "Oh no, he's cool now." Prove it, Zuck. You can't. It's like nowhere near the freedom is like Twitter. On Twitter, I post whatever and like whatever impulsive thought I have, and I never have any concern about it being taken down. But that's like the only social media platform that I feel that way about.
Yeah.
I'm constantly in trouble on all the other ones.
How are you constantly in trouble for all the other ones? Because of your conspiracy theories?
Well, sometimes I'll say something that's slightly politically slanted in a way that people take issue with. I got in trouble for having the opinion that we shouldn't send tens of millions of dollars to Israel or Ukraine for wars that have nothing to do with us, and that
billions. You think you mean
trouble.
Billions, dude?
Oh yeah, not tens of millions, tens of billions. Which that's what Ian's catching a ton of heat on that from the end of the Rogan thing.
Let's talk about that. So when I was messaging you about it, and you're like, dude, it's like I said, man, I haven't heard anything about Israel at all. I don't understand why people are freaking out about his shit. I go, and I've only got like 30 minutes left in the interview, and you go, it's the last 30 minutes. It's more like the last 15.
Yeah, they just like kicked it right into fourth gear or whatever. Which I feel like he didn't say anything like terribly egregious or anti-Semitic, but on like Twitter, my Twitter feed has just been, I see his profile picture 80,000 times as I scroll through my feed of just people, like accusing him of being some like raging anti-Semite.
If I'm not mistaken, the only things that he said that maybe people would take offense to on his view of like how Israel was founded was that when Israel was founded post World War II, the United States was working with mafia in both Italy and in the States because they needed to keep the ports open. And Lucky Luciano, like the head of whichever mafia crime family, owned the ports and the dockers unions, right? Basically.
Yep.
And so there was a lot of smuggling. So that happens during World War II. And then post World War II, when Israel's getting built up, they still continue to smuggle. And then you've got the Jewish mafia who's like, okay, smuggle with us. So then Luciano is smuggling with the Jewish smugglers and the Jewish mafia. And if you're going to create a military and get arms, you need to smuggle. So they smuggle a whole bunch of arms, to Israel, which builds up their military. And that's kind of the basis for Israel, is that it was a mix of hardcore people that fought the Nazis, political prisoners, people that survived World War II, and the criminal aspect of the organizations that grew and prospered during that had connections to getting like firearms and munitions. And those two groups came together, or several groups came together, formed Israel. And that, from Ian's point of view now, his point of view is that, well, some of those people remained in power. And if you're in the mafia, you can be a little unscrupulous. And you could do bad things. Hell, you did bad things because you were in the mafia. Obviously, you're not playing by anybody's rules, but your own. You're a criminal organization. Some of those criminal organizations stayed too long and or remain in power in Israel in certain places in the government. And
because I can't remember which prime minister, but the first prime minister, was like pretty high up in the mob. And like you said, it's you're by definition a criminal. So not exactly an upstanding citizen. Which I don't think is a particularly hot take. And
when I was looking at it too, because I figured that's what people were going to be upset about, I was like trying to rationalize it, and I'm like, if somebody revolts, right? Let's say this one wasn't really a revolt, but it was kind of like a stand up, and then you would immediately fight against the population that was there that didn't want you there. Like in every country's founding, there's been a quote unquote revolution, and the people that are the revolutionaries are often seen as the terrorist group by the original whatever country that's there. So how do those revolutionaries get weapons? Well, they use illegal pipelines, smuggling, mafia, whatever, to then get their munitions for, the United States. It was France. It was a non-friendly nation to England, to get a whole bunch of munitions to then fight against said country. And then once the country's taken over, the revolutionaries get put in positions of power and start running the country. Like, what he was saying was just like, okay, that just seems like normal rotation of create new country / revolution to create new government, cut and paste.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't see why people are taking such issue with, like anything that he said specifically. I don't know if it's just, oh, yep. I opened up my Twitter feed and there's his handsome little face with his big old mustache.
Is somebody talking shit?
Yeah, it's everything. And then I don't know. I think I saw a lot of people were like getting mad at him too because he's become like more and more conservative. Which he talks about that too.
A little
it's like
bit.
Basically the more that he's learned. And he called himself, like a classical liberal or whatever. But
that's what he said. He didn't really say conservative. He just said he's become more of a classical liberal. He's gone towards conservative. But I mean, if you're going from super left wing and you go to liberal, obviously you're going towards conservative. Doesn't mean you have any conservative values, though. It just means you're just going more centrist.
Yeah, which I've noticed that just through his content because when he started off at the beginning, he would do like these things in grocery stores where he'd walk down the aisles and talk about like how many companies, he'd be like, oh, here's all the shampoos in this aisle. And because they're what are the three companies? It's like Unilever.
Yeah, Unilever owns like everything, including Nestle.
Yeah, Unilever. Shoot, there's like two other ones.
Johnson & Johnson.
Johnson & Johnson is the one I was thinking of. Yeah, and then there's basically like 7 companies in the entire world. But he would go down and he was talking about, like the more he looked into it, the more everything's tied to everything else, that has been my conspiratorial chain of finding how many things are connected to each other and how terrifying it is.
Mm-hmm. Really off topic, but on topic. When I was in college, like a freshman, I had to take like a sociology class for like my liberal arts. Like when you, whatever it's called, when you have to take the first couple classes that are mandatory, so you can kind of get an idea of what college is like and get a taste of it, whatever. And the professor showed this video, and it was like a documentary, I guess you could say, about and it was directed and written and produced by one of the Johnson & Johnson kids. Like he's older than us, probably by like 5 or 7 years now. So I'm like, he's probably like mid 40s, I would assume, now. But it was when he was like, I think he's actually our age, because I think he did it when he was in high school. It was like his high school project or something like that.
Your professor or the Johnson & Johnson kid?
What's that?
The Johnson & Johnson kid made this documentary?
So the professor's showing us this video, and the video is a documentary made by a Johnson & Johnson kid. And his family's fucking loaded. He lives in a mansion. He's trying to figure out his way with the world. So he's like, I'm gonna make a documentary about being a Nepo baby, basically. And some of his friends and stuff like that. And then in order to like juxtapose it, he also has like this woman that like walks to work at a McDonald's in like Kentucky, poor as shit, but she's just a nice lady that
just a normal person
every day. Yeah. And one of the parts in it is he talks about how one of his friends, who was kind of portrayed as like an arrogant dickhead, because he did say some for us it'd be like fucking jokes, but he kind of meant them, and it was that rich arrogance of like, I'll let the poors deal with it. Like, they're fucking poor. Who gives a shit? Yeah, except it wasn't like snub your nose up. It was like dickish, like the way that I.
It's like he means that,
dude. Yeah, they're fucking pieces of shit, man. Who gives a shit? It just like this arrogance you can only get by having daddy's money, and then everybody being afraid of you because of that. And I forget which family he was with, but there was like a certain amount of like fear and respect that people had because his family was so super wealthy. So the Johnson & Johnson kid makes a documentary, and even before it's finished, the kid's like, hey, I don't like some of the things that I might have said in your documentary and how it's going to make me look. So don't, cease and desist. He's like, no, gonna do the documentary. You signed like all these you signed the shit that says we can do this.
Yeah.
And so he gets sued. And when the suit like begins or ends, I forget which. I think it was when it begins. Like his entire family and group of friends and his dad's friends and aunts and uncles are like congratulating him on his first official suit. Like, hey, congratulations, you made it. You're loaded. Like, we all get sued eventually, and over again. It's like a rite of passage. Congratulations on your first suit against you.
What an interesting life to live.
Right?
You're like proud of that. God, because you said that he's living off daddy's money. That's like infinite money. Those companies are worth so much freaking money. Like own an island. I thought you were going to go the other way where because the friend is from one of those same families.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought you were going to say before you said everybody congratulated him, I thought you were going to be like, everybody's businesses started failing and they started showing up missing and brake lines were cut.
Right.
Like,
everything was bad.
Everything was bad. And then he resolved the suit and it all went away.
Let's see if I can find it.
I'm curious. Because I haven't.
Ready for this? It's called Born Rich. 2020 in 2003 it was made.
Born Rich.
Born Rich. Oh, it's an hour long and it's on YouTube.
Oh yeah, heard it here, folks. It actually has pretty good 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb. That's not bad.
It's not bad. It's interesting. It's like this. It's kind of like a window into it, and the kid's not like obnoxious. But yeah, it's interesting, and I forget why my sociology teacher made us watch it. Just like I've forgotten just about everything that I had in college and all the classes that I had in college. But it was I remember it being an interesting movie, and like of course he asked us at the end like, "What'd you think of so and so, and what'd you think of the other person, and what do you think about their rites of passage?" Was like one of those things, you know, and how like people are the same but like different. Whatever. That's my story.
Oh. Well, comparing the life of a multi-billionaire to a regular person.
Yeah.
Huh. How'd you grow up?
Me?
Yeah.
Middle class.
Okay, right on.
Pretty, you know, I don't want to say lower middle class. I think I was directly in the middle, but we did live paycheck to paycheck. You know what I mean? Which is like fucking everybody.
I was going to say, yeah, that's like a recurring theme across the board for everybody.
Yeah.
We were barely scraping by, but
I'm trying to think. If we were poor, my parents never showed it. I mean, there were definitely times where I heard my parents like talking and like discussing bills, but nothing in like a panic. Because I lived in when I was little, the majority of my like very younger years, we lived in Niagara Falls, which is a fucking shithole.
Really?
The United States, Niagara Falls, city of Niagara Falls is a shithole. There's nothing redeemable about it whatsoever. It used to be cool because the mob was there, and then they arrested everybody in the mob, and then it just turned into a fucking ghetto. The whole thing just turned into a fucking ghetto. And when I was little, was it? I think we moved from there when I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade. But like when I was during Halloween when I was little, I had kids like literally steal my fucking candy bag, and like while I was with my sister because they were just fucking assholes.
That's what I say. Wait, well, you said if you were poor, you didn't know. Me and my siblings all had like the realization at the same time when we were like in our early 20s. We were like, were we poor when we grew up? And yes is the answer to that.
You know what? I have some inklings of like, you know, the harder times before we like fixed them, before like we kind of moved up a little bit. But tell me what some of your stories. You were like, what was the sign there?
Because one of the memories that I have was like my brother got the ball. We had like a ball that was shared between all of us, and he popped it, and then it never got replaced. It was like we just had the one. I can't even remember what it was, like a kickball or something. And he like kicked it up and it hit the gutter and cut. And then that was the end of that. The day that we moved out of that neighborhood, the 2 homeless guys got in a knife fight in the alley behind our house. So wasn't exactly a great neighborhood. But then it was also the 90s, early 2000s where children just ran feral.
Yeah.
So
Ran in the
neighborhood
streets.
that I grew up in, I would never, I would love my parents to death, but holy cow, I would never let children roam around after dark in that place.
Nobody's abducting kids, especially your ugly ass.
No, you say that, and hey, buddy, I love you, but you can't chomp that bone right here.
Sure, I can't hear it.
Okay. Oh, okay. As well, if it gets too loud, let me know. I had the classic white van. You want to help me look for my dog? Pull up.
Did you?
Yeah, in that same alley where the homeless guys got in a knife fight. But thank God it was the 90s when everybody was terrified that children would be abducted. So I had the training. I don't know you. That's my purse. Ran away.
Oh my God. So
but then we moved to, I don't know where my dad got I don't know if they've just been saving up, but then all of a sudden we moved to like just a middle class neighborhood, old suburbia, just out of nowhere.
They just
went
had
to
enough. They were like, screw
yeah.
it.
Well, they sent my older brother and sister to Catholic school, which was $1 million.
Yeah.
And so we just moved to a neighborhood with a nice public high school. So I went to public school.
Dude, that's the thing. You live in the city, but you have enough money to save up and send your kids to a private school, but then you're like, screw it, we can't let them live here in the environment anymore. They're not going to be at school all the time. So then they move out, and the only way to balance that, because the taxes are higher in that new living area, plus the mortgages, you let them go to the private or the public school in the small town. Yeah. Oh, we were the same way. In Niagara Falls, we all went, us 3 kids at the time. My youngest sister, the 4th, didn't come along until afterwards. We all went to private school, which was like a 30-minute at least drive.
Good Lord.
Yeah, like every day to private school. And then eventually, like I said, when I was like in 2nd or 3rd grade, we moved. And we moved in with my grandparents on my father's side, because I don't know why. I don't know why we originally started moving there, but I'm pretty sure it was after like my grandfather's 4th heart attack. So he used to smoke like a chimney, Connor. So
I got a Zin in right now. I'm good.
Oh, there you go.
Only because I'm inside and I can't smoke.
So we lived in our grandparents' house, which was a 1-story ranch, and my dad was building the 2nd story, the entire 2nd story of the home. He had like drawn it out. He was a plumber, so he knew architectural drawings, and he knew where the electric was going to go and how to do the plumbing. Did the plumbing himself. He would put up walls while like the workers were like, "Nope, we're not coming during the weekend. It's we got weekends off." And he would just work. That guy just worked his entire life. Few days off, and same. I fucking love him. I fucking love my father. But me and my 2 sisters at the time, we shared a room. We shared a bunk bed. I slept on the top, and the 2 girls slept on the bottom on the futon that would fold flat to like a queen or king size futon. And they hated that. But then once the upstairs was done, we all got to move upstairs, and we all had our own rooms, and Dad had his own room, and then Grandma and Grandpa lived downstairs, but then the living room and the kitchen were downstairs, so we'd have like, family time together. And my dad took care of our grandparents in that house until they passed away. And then, yeah, just a G, just a fucking G.
I was gonna say, yeah, that first when we were in the hood, and then we moved out to like a more rural area. But yeah, there was like just a little shotgun house built in like 1920.
Yeah,
with 3 bedrooms. There was like probably 1,800 square feet, and there were 6 of us,
1
bathroom.
Ranch?
No, it had because my dad's a contractor, still is.
Yeah.
And yeah, he would work freaking 7 days a week, and it had an attic that he remodeled into a master bedroom so that my older sister could have her own bedroom, and then my parents moved upstairs. But then we moved out to like a slightly more rural area and had a nice, decent sized house.
Yeah.
But dude worked 7 days a week. My mom worked. I mean, we were latchkey kids, walked home from school. And then he's still doing it. And then that was the skill set that, so I know you're working, or you've got the crack house. Did you pick all that stuff up from him, just knowing what you're doing?
Some of it. A lot of it was trial and error on my part. I brought him along to the crack house because I knew it had to be done right. So I'm comfortable with, like, if anything happens plumbing wise, including gas lines, I can do it. I know how to do it. I can put it together. I can make it work. Hey, that's existing. I can replace it and make it look just like it used to look. When it comes into, like, creating it, like the crack house where you're running lines for the first time, that's where I'm a little out of my league. But that's plumbing. If you like electricity, I'm no good at. I'm scared as shit when it comes to electricity. No, thank you.
The one thing I won't do is anything inside of a panel, but learning all that stuff from him, I didn't realize until, I can't even remember how it came up for the first time, but I was like, this is a valuable skill set that's worth money. And so I had dropped out of college and was like a bartender. And then, I think one of my customers, I just had hired me to do some work for him. And so I had to basically worked under my dad for the entirety of my life. And then I was like, wait, I could just be a contractor. Started that out. And, that's a nice line of work. The only reason I bring it up is because I have a story from today that really pissed me off.
Tell me about it.
So I've been working on Brandon's house.
Did you finish Cody's Island yet?
No, that's next.
That's such a piece of shit.
It's held up by 2x4. Did you see that video?
I was there when it was like.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because I think you were filming that cooking show, and everybody was leaning on the island, and I was like 10 feet back behind the cameras, and I'm just watching this giant slab of granite just like shift back and forth on 4 2x4s because the remediation guys came in and just destroyed the place. No, that's going to be a slightly bigger job because he's going to have to redo like all of the floor in his entire house because of how they cut it out. But Brandon's got another contractor remodeling like a different room. And that dickhead is trying to steal the work that I'm doing out from under me.
How so?
He left a bid on the counter. Brandon and I went over there earlier, and he left a bid on the counter for the work that I'm doing, like to finish what I'm in the middle of. And he texted Brandon the other day after I was over there because the bed of my truck was full with all the crap that I had pulled out. And I'm recording all this stuff, so eventually it'll be on YouTube. But I pulled all of the trash out. I have like 6 contractor bags in the front room, and he doesn't give a shit because he's he's never in there. And the guy saw it, and he was like, "I just wanted to let you know that other guy who's here is really just absolutely destroying the place. And he's definitely bringing down the appearance of your house." I was like, "Fuck you! I don't think the guy knows that we're friends." But
is this for Cody's house or for Brandon's?
Brandon's.
Okay. What are you doing at Brandon's?
Remodeling a bathroom on the first floor. So just he wanted some things mixed up, so I've been working on that and then recording it because I was like, I needed a mental reset from the tragedy of conspiracies and the government.
Yeah.
And how much it greatly upsets me.
Oh, I thought you would totally understand that we haven't had the Epstein files and we never will.
Yeah, those are never coming out.
Nope.
Watching that unfold on Twitter was...
Why was everybody smiling, and why hasn't any of their information from the binders come out yet?
That's what I don't understand. It was just like a social media thing, I guess, like a press thing. Because everybody showed up, all these, influencers or whoever showed up to the White House, and they got their big stupid white binders, and they posted pictures on social media, and then nothing's come out.
I didn't understand like the revolt people had when the social media people were smiling. Like they're like, "We've got the fucking binders. This is awesome." Like, yes, that's awesome. Let's fucking share it now.
Thing. Yes.
But even before the let's share it thing, people on Twitter were just like, "Look at them smile. This is nothing to smile about." Bro, shut the fuck up. Nobody cares. Just fucking share the shit and let us know. And none of them have shared it.
I guess I can kind of see the
absolute grifters, but go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can kind of see the smiling thing in like getting upset about that because it is like on the whole a bad thing, but like it's a tragedy, but in the same way that like everybody was celebrating when Osama bin Laden got killed, and they were like, "Oh, this is not a time that we should be celebrating." And it's like, "Nah, we killed him. We got him."
Yeah,
but
like they're celebrating because they're about to expose bad people. The right thing is happening. Well, potentially, they never have yet.
No, it's not going to happen because all the people are in power, and
yeah,
they released the flight logs, but I feel like
the ones that flight logs, didn't we?
I was going to say, the ones that I've seen, people were making it seem like it was some like revelation, and I've seen those flight logs. Everybody knew, like everybody who was on there for a couple of years now. I feel because when did the Epstein
guys in the
stuff
chat are saying that the binders were already out, that they leaked, quote unquote, leaked the binders, but it was all the same information that was already put out, maybe in like a different format, and the binders were like blacked out. There were some people that were blacked out for national security interests, which is like, what people?
Yeah, what people that are a concern for national security purposes,
right?
Because I feel like we should probably know regardless. I don't see how that could be an issue for national security if we found out that people in powerful positions were pedophiles. What you reading?
Just the chat, just like it was all a photo op, and the influencers were there. They got it last minute, and that other stuff. But yeah, oh my god, oh, I can't. I'm working something at the moment in the civilian job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this case that I've worked has led to something else, and unintentionally. So this unintentional thing, this case that led to the unintentional thing, right? The unintentional thing is me pretending to be a 15 and or 12-year-old girl on dating apps. And God. It took about 2 days. And I wasn't even fucking trying. It took about 2 days, and I've already got one on the hook.
Ugh.
And I can't wait to fucking get him. I can't wait.
That's exciting.
I can't wait. I started
I don't know how you could do that, man.
Yeah, I started calling up the district attorney's office that I work with for domestic violence and kids and sexual assault. And I was just like, hey, I accidentally did this from a prior investigation, one that I was learning. It turned into this now. I can't say anything right now.
We got another one. Yeah,
I was like, I'm looking for something. I found a new thing. and she's like, this is the way to do it. You need to go to this part of the criminal procedure law for New York State. And she was also like, you also need to say that you're younger. So that way it's a felony for attempted instead of a misdemeanor for the attempted.
Did I say 15? I meant 12.
Right. And the way that this person talks probably doesn't matter much, but
that's what I was saying. I don't know how you do that, because just like knowing that people like that existed in the world. Every time I learn about things like that, it's like, it just like hurts your soul, dude.
Bro, it's weird. It's like it's my first time doing that, and I was like, oh my god, what do I do? What do I say? How do I not blow my cover? How do I get this person to without my influence, for them to naturally solicit me as a minor? Mm-hmm. Right? How do I allow them to naturally bring it up so that it's not me coercing them, right? Mm-hmm. Which is kind of hard when you just go, I'm 15, and then they keep talking to you. So,
I was gonna say the fact that a grown man's willing to talk to a child it probably makes it pretty easy from there.
Yeah. So I was like, oh shit, how do I do this? And I was like, all right, calm down. Let's ask some questions. I got to talk to Homeland Security. HSI does a lot of stuff with human trafficking and the CP, or as you would know as Cheese Pizza from Pizzagate. And so they deal with that. So I have to be careful how I do it. But it's going to be, I can't wait for the sting. Oh, I can't wait to be like, meet me in the park, pick me up. And then it's just me walking around in a trench coat, just being like, hey,
Steve, it's me.
Sit down.
Stephanie.
We got to talk. What?
What was that? Oh, To Catch a Predator from back
Yeah.
in the day. Chris
Have a
Hansen.
seat. Have a seat.
Why don't you have a seat over
Why don't you
here?
have a seat right
Well,
there?
which I've heard, and I'm sure you would have way more information on that, just from your background. That like shows like that, or like the people who do it on the internet, like try and catch pedos and stuff. They like really screw it up on the like criminal justice side.
So, yes. I'm actually making a video on how I don't like YouTube sleuths.
Mm.
And I haven't finished it. It's in its final phases. Because I gotta tell you, I'm nervous. Like I have to be careful because I don't want to poke the bear in a way that creates negative feedback, right? I gotta get my point across without sounding like a jaded detective that says civilians shouldn't help us. Sit down and shut up, public, because that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm trying to get through with the video that I'm making is basically that because people have a very poor or no understanding of the legal system from state to state, they will often make very poor judgments and ruin people's lives, at least for a short period of time, unintentionally. And sometimes that leads to suicide. Like people get blamed with stuff and the harassment doesn't stop, and then they off themselves and they find out, well, that guy wasn't a suspect. And then what happens? Well, the internet sleuth just goes and says, oh, my bad, shouldn't have done that. That sucks.
Oops.
You know what I mean? There's no,
Yeah.
What are you going to do? So it's kind of a mix of, yes, help out local police, work with local police. That's great. But internet sleuths can cross a line. And here's one example is where they cross the line.
Mm-hmm. It's like, because I don't know where I had heard that originally, but just that because there was some specific case where it was egregious, and somebody had explained it. I think it was in a YouTube video, and it was like had like the proper channels pursued this dude, which whether or not that would have happened in the first place, who knows? But he basically would be in prison for the rest of his life. But because of this guy who set it all up on his own, just a civilian dude, he basically got away with all of these horrifying things, which I know like the recidivism rates for pedophiles are like through the roof. So it's in all likelihood, he's going to get caught eventually. Fingers crossed. But
is he going to get caught? He's going to do it. He's going to do it again, definitely.
Right.
But does it get caught? Yeah, a good example of somebody that does it the right way is like, I think his name is Alex Rosen, the big white guy that says the N-word all the time on Twitter.
I don't know that I'm familiar.
Hold on. Let me see if I got him right. I think his name is Alex Rosen.
Is he the dude who like beats the shit out of him?
No. No, this guy just does a really good job of catching them. So he's this very large man. He's like a power lifter, and he's kind of balding on top like me, but he lets it grow out, and he's got a big red beard. He's on Twitter, and all he does is catch pedos. His predatorpoachers.com is his website. And he's a little rough around the edges. Like he says some inflammatory stuff, right? But he does a good job. And I believe, because I followed him for a little while, and I think in the beginning, he wasn't doing things correctly. So like police agencies were like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, you're getting us info, but like it's fruit of the poisonous tree. You've collected it in the wrong way. Or you've like pressured him or put words in his mouth in a manner to where it looks like you're entrapping him, right? Like there's certain ways that you have to go about a sting, right? Otherwise you're like the FBI in that, that governor assassination attempt where everybody that went to trial was acquitted and the two guys that pled guilty, went to jail because the feds apparently their CIs were doing more work than what they were supposed to, and which can happen if you don't have a good understanding of your CI and they fly off the handle and you don't ring them back in. But we're going way off topic here. But yeah, this guy, for the past, I want to say at least 6 months to a year, has gotten it like dialed in state by state, and is like, hey, we've got this pedo here. He said this, and this to me while I pretend to be this age. And then the great thing is too, is when they meet these people in public, like there's no reasonable expectation of privacy. And in police land, it's called a non-custodial interview. So get ready for some knowledge. I'm going to drop a little bit of knowledge on you.
Right. Writing some notes.
So there's two types of interviews. There's custodial and non-custodial, right? Custodial means that you are detained, right? Or you as the individual think you're detained, meaning you're in a police-dominated environment. Or let's say you go to our headquarters and I put you in a room and I talk to you. Like it's almost like you can't, you could feel like you're not allowed to leave, like you've been detained. And in those moments, you have to read them the rights, right? If they feel, it's not if I detain them, if they feel like they're detained and their defense can, push against us and say that, they were detained at this moment, even if you didn't say, hey, you're detained or you're under arrest. If they feel detained and you don't read them their Miranda rights, all of those statements can be tossed. Now, in a non-custodial interview, which is something that I use often, in a non-custodial interview, you don't have to read them their rights because they have the right to leave, and there's no way that they could interpret that they are detained. So what Alex does, and it's a good interview tactic, is he'll go up to the person when he says, hey, let's meet in the park. I'm Susie, that's 10. And they'll go meet in the park, and he'll meet the dude, and it's all recorded, video and audio, in a public place where he's not like in the back of Alex's car where he's trapped and it's driving so he can't leave, right? And I'm not exactly sure how that works on the civilian side, but if it works for us that way, I would assume that it would transfer over to the civilian side. If that person feels like they're trapped and they can't leave, and you start directly grilling them on what you did to their little kid, that could be seen as a custodial interview. Especially because, if you make a citizen's arrest on a felony, if you're arrested, you're holding them, you're detained. So he does it in a public environment where it no longer is an issue if it's a custodial interview. It's a non-custodial interview because the person can get up and leave. They're not detained in any form or fashion. So then all those statements can be used against them in court.
Yeah, so essentially it's like if it'd be from a legal standpoint the same as if one of those guys just walked up to you in the grocery store and started telling you all of these things.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, Is that a state-by-state thing? Because I've been detained before and not Mirandized.
So, yes. So being detained doesn't necessarily... Here's another little piece of information for you. So just because you're detained or even arrested doesn't mean you need to be read Miranda rights. So Miranda rights are only read to you if you are detained and you're being directly questioned on the crime that is being investigated that involves yourself. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that you get in a bar fight and you stab somebody, right? And then I come over and I lock you up and I put you in the back of the car. I never have to read you your rights. I can drive you all the way downtown. I can ask you your name and your date of birth and where you live and a way to contact you. These are things that you don't need Miranda for. It's just more of like court information, so that way I know who I'm charging. And so those things I can ask and it's not an issue. And they can use that in court. Well, how do you know who he is? Well, he identified himself during the arrest, after I had arrested him. So I can not Mirandize you, arrest you, take you all the way downtown, fill out the paperwork, take statements from other people that witnessed it, and then lock you up. And I never have to Mirandize you. Now, if I start talking to you in the back of the car, and you'll see guys do this a lot, like you'll put somebody in cuffs and you'll sit them in the back of the car, and they're like, I didn't do anything. You could be like, hold on a second. You got the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court of law. Blah. Give it the whole spiel. All right. Do you understand these rights that I just read to you? Yes. All right. So listen, I'm arresting you because you like they're saying you stabbed somebody. What happened, man? And see, now I'm directly questioning you about the incident. And then those statements afterwards, if you made any, would still be usable in court. And then there's also a term, it's called 71030 statement, which is a spontaneous utterance. So let's say during that car ride downtown where, I arrest you because you stabbed somebody and I don't Mirandize you. If I'm driving, and I don't ask any questions, I'm just driving and you're just screaming in the back, I fucking stabbed him, but that's because he's a piece of shit. well, I can write that down as a statement, even though I never
Mhm.
Mirandized you because there was no direct questioning.
Gotcha. What percentage of people do you figure over the course of your career tend to just start spewing information?
I don't know if I could get a percentage. I used to be really good at not Mirandizing people and not asking them any questions. And then being silent, which would cause them, which would like giving them like silence, which would allow them to speak. Like I'm trying to think of an example. Like if you said, this is really simple. If I put you in the back and be like, hey, you're under arrest, you know, I'm not going to talk to you about it right now, you know, and this is all on body cam. Like, I'm not going to talk to you about it right now. All right, I'm going to take you downtown. And then you'd be like, why? Why are you taking me downtown? You're asking a question to me now. Like, I'm taking you downtown because the people said that you stabbed them. You're like, why? I didn't stab them. I'm like, all right, hey man, I'm not the judge. The people said that you stabbed them, and that is the reason why you are arrested. But well, what if I stabbed them for self-defense? Self-defense is a good. You can stab somebody for self-defense, but I don't know I don't know how you did that. So I'm just not sure of the situation and how you would describe it. And they'd be like, well, I did, and then they start talking, right? I didn't ask them any questions. I made statements. I told them exactly why they were being arrested, but that leaves it open for them to, if they want, talk to me. And I don't have to Mirandize you if it's going to be a one-way conversation with you constantly giving me information. And then I would take that and I would put all that information in a 7-10-30 statement.
So yeah, the only reason that I asked that is because like in relation to those oh, never mind. I guess I probably can't answer that or ask you that question since it's an ongoing investigation.
What is it? I might be, if I can answer it, I can answer it, but if I can't, I can't.
Well, it'd be like those like just like how it would work with him. I guess no, you already answered that. A non-custodial interview or whatever, where he's just giving you this information.
So like another way that you can have a non-custodial interview is a controlled phone call, which is just a fancy word for a recorded phone call. Mm-hmm. So like New York State is a one-party consent state, which means that if I want to record you, only one person needs to know about it. So I can record you and I can talk about whatever, right? And then that's my recording and that's usable in court. What I can't do is I can't have a recorder in like a book or disguised some way talk to you and then leave the recorder in the room and then leave. So I can't do that. I can't like have a recorder go in a room where nobody present is aware that they're being recorded. Now there's differences when you're in a police station and you're in an interrogation room and everything's being recorded. That's different. You're in a police dominated environment. I'll tell you, hey, everything here is recorded. Or there'll be signs on the wall that say, everything is recorded. Or if you get like a warrant, obviously, then, you could put a bug in somebody's house. But even then, one person's aware of it and monitoring it normally. But I haven't had like a bug in a spot where, I'm constantly glued to the headset and then, I got to go take a pee and I got to have somebody, swap with me quickly. I haven't been in that scenario. I'm not really sure how bugs work because that's just not something that I've been a part of yet.
Is that movie style sitting in a van out front surveillance like a real thing?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's all the time. All the time.
Yeah. So there's
I've sat on houses. You know what? I can tell you this. I'll tell you a surveillance story. I was on a case. It's over. It's done. The guy got charged. It's all done. So I can talk about it. The guy got caught abusing his daughter physically. Like he was beating the piss out of her. And I came across it and I was able to, well, when I say we, I mean like everybody that was involved in the investigation. So we were able to remove the daughter from him. And then I was able to get a warrant for his person and the property, his living space, so that I could get his phones and her phone, because there was potential that there was video recordings of some of the abuse. So I'm like, okay, cool. I got the warrant signed. I'm going to come in tomorrow early and I'm going to get one of our unmarked cars and I'm going to sit on his house and I'm going to do a car stop, basically. I'm not going to do it, but we're going to kill him in the car, right? We're going to get him to get pulled over by somebody, get him out of the car, you know, arrest him, detain him, and then go back to the property, which is a very safe way of doing searches. You know, that way you're not kicking in the door and getting shot at, or you're not kicking in the door and they're destroying evidence, you know, specifically like if you're in narcotics, right?
Mm.
So I'm sitting there in an unmarked and I pull up and I'm like, there's smoke coming from the tailpipe. Is his car running? It's in the drive. That's definitely in his driveway. Is the car running? And so I drive by and as I'm about to like pass his house, he gets out and like goes in the house and back in the car and in the house. And I'm like, oh fuck. Is he, nobody goes in and out of a house, right? If they're going to stay there. Does that make sense? Like if the car's
like he's clearly
running,
moving.
Yeah. If the car's running and you go in and out, you're not arriving at your house to stay. You're going in and out of your house because you're about to leave and you're grabbing shit, right? That's kind of like how my cop brain works. Like if he goes in and out, you know, more than once, he's grabbing shit, preparing to leave that area, not bringing stuff in to stay, right? So I'm like, fuck. So I get on the radio in my unmarked car and I'm like, hey, I need a car here. Just need a car. Have them call me SVU guy at such and such number. And sure as shit, guy gets in his car and then backs out. And I'm like, fuck. The patrol car's not here. Shit. And I'm like, oh, shit. Now, whenever an unmarked detective starts calling out on a car chase, I wasn't in a car chase, but like following a car, the entire radio goes silent and everybody shuts up. It's like, we're on our way. And you can hear coppers like call out on the radio and be like, we're on our way. And then hear the engine go in the background. So I'm like, hey, I'm going southbound on this street. I'm behind this car. I need this vehicle pulled over. I am following him here. All right. He's made us, an eastbound turn, still in the car, going eastbound in this direction on this street. All right, we've hit this stop sign at this intersection, still on the street, still eastbound. And then they pull him over. And but yeah, that was me like I was just going to sit on the house and see whether or not he was going to be there, like if he had pulled up or not. And then I was going to call ahead and get one of our other detective units to assist me in this search warrant. But that didn't happen. It ended up happening a lot faster.
He didn't. I mean, that's kind of a good thing. You didn't have to sit outside of his house all day.
Yeah, well, and that happens. If you're doing surveillance, which I've done before, where you're just sitting on a spot. The best surveillance is when you're sitting on a spot waiting to execute the warrant, because you know that there's kind of going to be like an end time, and the end time is going to be whenever the suspect, you confirm that the suspect is at the address. Or whenever SWAT's like on their way rolling and you're just kind of sitting there waiting to see if they exit or, you know, if kids get put into the house. The other surveillance where you're waiting and you're gathering information or you're trying to confirm, you're just, it's fat body shit. You're just sitting there with a cup of coffee, and, a Rip It and, a ham sandwich, and you've got a couple cars on the house. And, every 2 hours you're calling out over the air like, hey, I got to take a piss. Hey, I got to go get another bottle of water. And that's whatever. You deal with it. It's got to be done.
Sorry. Moment of silence as we both take a sip.
No, that's all right. I got some super chats that I've been skipping. My bad. The pedo should, Nate, the pedo should be sentenced to an hour with JD delay. He'd crush them. Bucket Dealer says, let me give you a hand. I've got a 24/7 wood chipper service. Noted.
Feet first, baby.
Friday. What's that?
I said feet first, baby.
Happy Friday, girl. And Daniel Todd. How are you guys doing? AC arresting King Trout. If I heard that in the news, I wouldn't be surprised. True. And then Truck Senpai is always there. What's up, Truck? You unsubscribed from HLC because of his pro-Ukraine war rants? I mean, okay. over 600 folks and only 170-ish likes. Do better. Yeah, that's right. You tell them. You tell the chat. 4 likes. Fuck them. Oh yeah. And we started out talking about Israel and Ian, and then we kind of went down the.
Yeah, that's my ADD.
I was fine with it. I don't know. I mean, I'll talk about anything. It could start off one way and then diverge into another thing.
Steer away, yeah. Because I'm trying to think of what else they talked about. I went to re-listen to it today, but I only made it in like the first hour. But excuse me. When I watched it the other day, I'm trying to think of what all topics they touched on, because I know.
Well, they talked about Epstein, and they talked about him potentially being a Mossad agent or used by Mossad as well as other people because of Ghislaine Maxwell and her dad being like a major player in Mossad for Israel. But that's like, I feel like that's one of the most well-known things in the Epstein case, right? Is that Ghislaine was the daughter of a Mossad guy, and so that was like the potential that how he could get in. What else were they talking about with like some of the conspiracies? Because he was talking about some shit that was like way over my head. Things that the JFK files, like.
Oh yeah, that was a big one. Yeah, because that's like, another thing that they were saying that's supposed to be released, and then I just saw something the other day that they're holding back on it again for like national security things, and the theory is that there are people like in those documents. This is just what I've heard, but people who are in those documents who are like directly tied to these things, who are still alive, which everybody's got their little JFK theory. And I don't know. I like personally, just off of like the stuff that I've seen, I think LBJ had way more to do with it than a lot of people give him credit for.
Oh, I bet.
Because
he's going to be the next guy in charge. So if there's an assassination going, let's think this through, right? Let's say that it was 100% the United States government that murked JFK, which, not going to lie, I kind of lean into. If you were doing that, the next person up is LBJ. And if you don't want to have more of the same, you're going to talk to LBJ and be like, hey, what would you do, let's say, if you became president? And I'm sure he filled in the blanks, and they were like, that sounds great. What if instead of this way of thinking, you did that way of thinking? And then that way, you won't take a dirt nap. And you'd be like, you know what? I'm interested. I don't want to take a dirt nap. Also, I want to be president. So once you're done doing your thing, I can make sure that all those documents are sealed. And then that way we can say it's because of national security or some other bullshit. And that'll last for fucking ever. So it wouldn't surprise me if the guy that is about to that would replace the president was somehow involved in an assassination attempt from within our own government to take out the president. That doesn't seem like a far-fetched idea. Like, if we're pulling shit out of our ass, I mean, let me try to logically break that down.
Yeah, well, and one of the big things too that pisses me off about LBJ is Kennedy kind of started talking about bringing us into like Vietnam or getting more involved in Vietnam, but not to the same level as we ended up getting. And LBJ, obviously was president when we went to war in Vietnam, and his wife owned what eventually became worth tens of millions of dollars in stock in the Bell Helicopter Company, like through the contracts that were signed with the military in the Vietnam era with Bell Helicopter. Like, what vehicle do you think of with Vietnam?
Yeah, the Huey. It's iconic.
Huey, yeah, Bell Helicopter, baby. So his family, his wife specifically,
out of Niagara Falls, New York, by the way.
Oh, she is.
Yeah, Bell was. Now it's like the Niagara Falls International Airport used to be filled with Bell and airplanes, and there's a Air National Guard. One half is civilian, and then the other side of the tarmac is Air National Guard. But it's like the civilian side, like all the Bell business buildings and parking lots are all like torn down or old. When I used to drive to school, or when my parents used to drive me to school, and on the way back, we would pass it every day. And I would always look at it and be like, man, how did an amazing company that invented the helicopter and like had such success How did it just dry up one of its major like testing grounds slash headquartered areas in Niagara Falls? Like, what the fuck?
A lot of that was boomers outsourcing labor and manufacturing. I'm from the Rust Belt, Indiana. That was everywhere around me was abandoned factories.
Bro, Buffalo. Us and Pittsburgh were Buffalo Steel.
Oh yeah.
And Buffalo Steel and Bethlehem Steel were the two larger steel companies. We got a Ford plant here now, and that's still around. But yeah, we used to be a very industrialized city, and then I don't know what the fuck happened to it. Dude, we used to have an amazing main street. Like, our main street was like New York City. Like, there was like a 6-8 lane main street with a Golden Dome M&T Bank, and it was like 3-4 story brown brick buildings that had like storefronts, and it was like gorgeous. And then we tore it we fucking got rid of it, and it became like these gross, ugly, like 60s, 50s
brutalist architecture.
And like strip
I've been
malls.
working on something about
horrible.
That's
like, there's let me see, I'm gonna pull it up.
I'll say, because I rant about brutalist architecture like probably 3 times a week. I know Brandon and Cody are sick of me talking about it, but there was like an arts movement. I mean, they were mostly like Marxists back in post-war Europe, and a lot of the like design principles, because I went to school for architecture there for a while, but a lot of the design principles, they'll either say it was like we're cutting down buildings to their raw form, which is like one theory on it, and then the other is that there were all of these like communist schools, like super far left art schools in Europe after World War II, and they stripped down everything to its raw form because after the war they thought humanity didn't deserve beauty. Like, we're savages, we don't deserve beauty. So then all around the world, I literally that just popped in my statues crumble for me. literally they tore down all of this beautiful architecture from which in Europe everything's 1,000 years older than here in the States, but they just have these big ugly concrete buildings with there is form or function over form rather. And every time I see, it's always government buildings. They're just so depressing. Just giant slabs of concrete.
Do me a favor. On your computer, open up a Google window and then type in Buffalo, New York, World War I parade. And it's going to be the first image that pops up. You're going to see this like black and white photo of troops marching in like this big dome building.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's the M&T Bank building. And M&T Bank is headquartered out of it now. Or I mean, one of its major hubs is headquartered out of it there. So that used to be one of our that used to be Main Street, right? And you can see like there's trolley lines in it, where like the troops are marching through, and it's like 6 lanes wide, and there's plenty of like there's like 15, 20 foot sidewalks in front of the buildings, and it's fucking awesome, right? Only that building is there now. All of like the 3-4
the picture right underneath it. Yeah.
Is there a picture underneath it?
There's a picture underneath it of modern day, and it's 3 lanes wide, and there's a parking garage.
Oh, let me go back. Let's see if I can't find it. I went to the Library of Congress. What did you pick on?
I just have the images page open, but it's like the only color picture when I searched. I'm so dumb. I googled Google Buffalo World War I parade.
Well, I mean that's gonna be it. Oh, I don't see another one.
Yeah, it's
not Tumblr. Anyway,
big old parking garage. It's like this looks like they split the street in half. Just filled it in with
they like built in
slabs.
Dude, like I understand the importance of having like a historical society in a town. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this building is important and it's old and it reminds us of things and it's beautiful. I get that. I can understand that. But we also have like the most retarded historical society in our city because they'll be like, you can't change that park. I'm like, oh, you mean this dumpster heap filled with needles? I can't what with it after I bought the property? Oh, you can't do anything with it because this guy cut his dick off there in the Vietnam War as a show of protest. You're like, fuck you. Like, there's so many stupid things. Oh my god, dude, my city used to be absolutely gorgeous, and they got rid of all this old architecture for fucking new build bullshit.
The new build bullshit. Well, there's like one property company, and I can't remember the name of it, but they're owned. I know one of them is owned by BlackRock, but there's one based out of Texas, and they own like every apartment building that's been built in this country for the past like 20 years. That's why they all look the same all around the country. If I can find it. One based out of Texas. Because I know, yeah, BlackRock's buying up all of the real estate. But they're doing like individual houses. There's a giant property company out of Texas.
Oh, dude, there's another one. Somebody just mentioned the World's Fair. He says the World's Fair were cover-ups, which I don't doubt. But we also had an amazing World's Fair too.
World's Fair, because the Cleveland back in
Pan American Exposition. That's what it was. And I don't even know where the building, the fountains, the everything that's in this photo in 1901 ain't fucking there at all anymore. They were like, hey, let's make this beautiful building, and then I guess tear it down within a couple years. I don't know.
Oh yeah, here's the thing that I'm assuming this is what they're talking about. World's Fairs were used as an excuse to demolish America's ancient architectural heritage. I haven't heard that, but you've piqued my interest.
Like, not for us. For Buffalo, it was really absolutely gorgeous. But then then they tore it down after they built it. They made beautiful stone monuments and 100-story build or 100-foot tall buildings. Looking like, and then they took them all down.
That's what, they did the same thing in Cleveland. They built they completely redid the city, and it was gorgeous, and then they tore it all down. Oh no, that was the World's Columbian Exposition that I'm thinking of, I think, because the World's Fair in Chicago, that all burned down in the Chicago fire, because that was the same thing. It was just like, you look at pictures of it, and it's like it's insane to think that they did that 130 years ago, especially when you compare to how everything looks now,
right? Like, I'm looking at this building that's got to be at least 120 feet tall. It's just like it's kind of like an Empire State Building-esque, like center with like breezeways that are built off to the left and right of it. It's like a big U-shaped kind of like formal area, and it's gorgeous. And I have no idea where the hell it was.
But it's not here anymore.
It's not here anymore. I don't know where the hell the only place where I think it might have been is on the east side, which is now MLK Park, which has a splash pad, and that's fucking it. Well, and a bust, a massive bust. It's like 5 foot tall, the head of Martin Luther King Jr., but it doesn't look anything like him. It just looks like some weird squashed, like super circular, but then like bulging out on the ears thing. It's one of. Let me see if I can't find it.
I was like, I kind of want to see this statue now. It's like the one of Ronaldo, the soccer player.
Yes, but worse. Yeah, there we go. Look up Buffalo, New York,
God.
MLK Park statue.
It looks that is bad.
It looks demonic. It doesn't look like him at all.
No, not at all. It almost we've been robbed, quote, controversy reigns 37 years after an 8-foot statue in honor of Dr. King was unveiled at the park. It looks like the Olmec, the big stone heads that are in like the jungle in southern Mexico.
Kind of. I just think it looks like it just doesn't look. I mean, it looks like a black person, but it doesn't look like MLK.
It's like the guy who made the statue was just told to make a statue of a black guy's head.
A generic black man's head, real quick for me.
Like, you ever seen a black guy? And he's like, yeah, one time, and they were like, yeah, make an 8-foot tall bronze statue of that guy.
He just got a National Geographic in front of him, and he's just like, this will be good enough. And the guy that orders it is just racist as fuck, and it's just like, oh, they all look the same. And then you go ahead, put it up there. That looks nothing like MLK. If he was maybe 14 and like not yet developed,
his head's a completely different shape.
Because MLK had like an oval head.
Yeah,
and this one looks like
he had a mustache too.
And this guy looks like the top of his head is a rectangle. It's like almost he's almost got a box.
I like how everything that came up when I've searched it is people begging to have it removed.
It just don't look like him, man. Just
don't look like him at all.
My city's so fucking weird.
I'll say because I've only for the unsubscribed live tour. That's the only time I've ever been up there to Buffalo, which we really only went 2 places. Granted, there was 2 feet of snow on the ground and it was freezing, but
it wasn't that bad.
It was.
There was 2 feet of snow. Yeah. No, we only went to the. Well, I picked you guys up from the hotel.
Yeah, in the Merv.
That
thing's cool.
Which, dude, tomorrow's. So, I'm gonna try and record it and do a Pepperbox exclusive of the Merv at St. Patrick's Day in Buffalo. And Buffalo is super Irish, so we have 2 St. Patrick's Days. We have the Old Ward, which is like filled with Irish. South Buffalo and the First Ward. So we have the Old Ward St. Patrick's Day Parade, which is tomorrow, Saturday, which is what I'm going to. And it's the fucking best. And then we have the citywide Buffalo St. Patrick's Day Parade, and that goes down one of our major streets in the city from like the city center to like a quarter of a mile up. And that one's like where everybody comes in from around like the outskirts, and they get like super drunk and rowdy, and kids from the suburbs come in and like fuck it all up, and people fight, and it's stupid. The First Ward one that I'm going to be in tomorrow with the Merv is fucking awesome because it goes through the old First Ward and the valley, where it's all like just people's homes. It's not like major streets. There's like a main street that kind of goes through the area called South Park, but it's not like a 4-lane, large street. It just happens to be like one of the major veins that take you to the south of Buffalo. And so all these streets that you go down are like just everybody's normal homes. It's not like a major street, a main street where it's businesses and big sidewalks and shit. No. Yeah. So you're in people's neighborhood, right? And they're partying on their front stoop. Some of them have porches. And everybody gets hammered and has a great time, and they police themselves. Like, for the amount of hammered people and like a couple shoving matches that happen, there's no real insanity that goes there because everybody's just like, hey, this is my house. Get off my fucking lawn if you're gonna do that shit. And then and then they'll go in the street, and then everybody who just heard neighbor Jimmy, well, I mean, yeah, James is a fairly Irish name, that hears James yelling at so and so is like, coming out their front porch with all their friends and family that are sitting there been tailgating for hours before the parade started because you can all drink in public. And they're like, hey, who's that guy? Where are you from? You're not from here. Get the fuck out of here. And then he's just chased down the street until he realizes that he needs to go home, and then he's gone. So
you're taking the Merv to that?
Yeah, I'm not driving. I am, however, running around with a 5-gallon cooler it's kind of like those big Gatorade orange
the
things?
Big jugs with a tap on them, yeah.
Yeah, well, I've got one of those. My buddy does. It's like a Yeti, but it's a backpack one, and it holds about 5 gallons. And so I fill it up with booze, and I just run around giving people that are of age shots. So instead of throwing candy out to kids, I just run around giving shots at JMO or whatever I've got. This year it's JMO. I bought 6 1.75s at JMO, and I'm pretty sure I'll be out by the time I get done with the parade.
So yeah, because Oh yeah, last year you were here
Yeah,
on
tomorrow
St. Patrick's Day.
Sunday.
I saw your ass on St. Patrick's Day last year.
That's right. So yeah, I'll text the boys, and in remembrance of the first live show that Unsub ever did, where I showed my ass to the world. Well, to a couple people.
Yeah. I saw it, and it's my world. I don't know where I was going with that.
I don't know.
What's the story with the kilt?
What do you mean?
Do you just have a kilt because you have a kilt, or do you like go to events and stuff?
Yeah, I St. Patrick's Day. I wore my kilt. I think I wore it to a wedding once, and my rugby team, when I played rugby, was the South Buffalo Irish. Well, originally our team was the South Buffalo Thugs, which is a cool story. South Buffalo is known as like hardworking, nose of the grindstone folks, and we're the second rugby team in the city proper. The other team is Buffalo Rugby Club. So there's Buffalo Rugby Club and South Buffalo Rugby Club. And obviously, because we're in the same city, there is a rivalry. And Buffalo Rugby Club is good at finesse. They are technically very skilled. They've got like 3 or 4 divisions. They're extremely talented. And South Buffalo Rugby has got like 2 teams. You got your A side and your B side. So like your Division 1, you could say, and then your Division 2. And like I said, we're a little rough. Well, when you're rough, you play rough. So South Buffalo had a reputation for playing like a bunch of thugs and just thumping people. Win or lose, you were going to leave bruised if South Buffalo came rolling along. And that was the mindset. So the nickname, like you guys play like a bunch of thugs, became the name, the South Buffalo Thugs. And because South Buffalo's super Irish, we then changed their name, I think it was like 8 years ago, to the South Buffalo Irish, because we actually got sponsored by Ireland.
Oh, like the Nation of Ireland?
Nation of Ireland. Yeah, the Nation of Ireland has dumped a bunch of money into South Buffalo because of its Irish heritage. And also because South Buffalo raised a lot of money for the IRA.
I was just about to ask because I remember that,
a lot of money.
Back in the 90s, it was like millions of dollars were raised because Boston did the same thing too. There's a bunch of Americans, from Buffalo and Boston.
Yep. Yeah,
sent a bunch of money over the IRA.
I had an English guy that worked for MI5, and he was teaching me and my department like interrogation techniques for detectives, like, hey, how to set up it was a fantastic class. I've used it ever since, and it's worked phenomenally for me. And it's not really like a trick, right? It's like, how do you set up an interview? How do you go about it? Here are some phases of an interview normally that happen that you can prepare for. And he was talking about how when he was working for MI5, he would do a lot of undercover work and stopped a lot of bombings and arrested and worked with and interviewed a lot of people in the IRA. And like he said that, and he was very proud of it. And I wasn't the only person that was just like, ooh, you need to be careful who you say that to if you go out to eat. Because he was here for like a week, like doing this class for like a number of us. And like, I never said it to him. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody did, but I was like, hey, dude, you're a really cool guy. Don't tell that story everywhere, because South Buffalo raised a shit ton of money for the IRA. As a heads up.
One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
Bro, I knew a buddy I got a buddy that's Palestinian, and he's like, his dad raises money for Hamas. And I'm like, well,
really?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I can see the similarities there. Similar but different, but okay.
Is it? What's the legality of that?
Well, I mean, think about it. You just think about like USAID, right? His dad.
Oh God.
His dad can raise money and give it to an organization that's like a peacekeeping mission or whatever. Hots for tots. And give the little kids food, and none of that fucking money goes to food. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, that USAID thing. I don't know if we want to get into that, because that looking at that list of the things that we were sending money for is insane.
Oh yeah. You know what's funny is that's kind of that is what I did in the Army. For one of my other jobs was civil affairs and psychological operations. And PsyOps is obviously doing like direct intelligence, psychological operations, whereas civil affairs is we were trying to make the local populace trust us and the local government by doing projects and spending money to try and move the needle, whether it be politically or
socially,
to like pro-American, pro-Iraqi democracy. So it's funny when people are like, look at all these stupid fucking things. And I'm like, yeah, some of them are really stupid and serve no purpose and are absolutely a waste. I go, but some of those are meant to directly affect the populace and move them in a certain way or create a counterculture to a culture that we don't want or that is anti-American in said nation. So like, not USAID has a lot of waste. I think we can agree. USAID is kind of a sneaky way of getting people to do what America wants, right? Some of those ways, let's say that there's 1,000 different projects by USAID. Some of those, if you looked at them, I'm sure we would look at and be like, oh, that's a good fucking idea. That's actually something that I would support. But, obviously there's the main thing with USAID right now is how it's underhandedly like paying the opposition and the people the opposition are fighting $5 million. Like in, I think it was Syria. Like the FBI and the CIA were funding both sides.
Yeah, which is a classic move historically for us.
And also not necessarily stupid, because if you've got two terrorists fighting each other, they're not fighting us. And if you're like, hey, it cost me $15 million a year to keep these two different people warring each other and not the rest of us or Israel, that's kind of a good price to pay.
Which I've kind of heard that as an argument for like funding Ukraine, like the amount of money that we're sending them, which I've got my own opinions on all that, but kind of there's an argument that I've heard where it's like, well, we can pay X amount of dollars to have Ukrainians die to, keep Russia at war. But then I've also heard, that there obviously are disadvantages to sending over our equipment that they can get a close look at. Not that I'm sure they know all of that stuff.
They captured an Abrams already. I saw it on Twitter the other day.
That was what made me think of it. But I'm sure they already have that information. We probably got spies 10 miles up each other's ass.
Oh, we just busted, I got to do a video on it actually. We just busted 3 more Chinese guys, soldiers, like U.S. Army soldiers that are Chinese.
Really?
Sending information, some of it secret and top secret, from hard drives that they've collected to the Chinese, to a Chinese co-conspirator in China. And they just got arrested.
They're like American nationals, or?
Yeah, well, they served in the United States. 2 of them are active. One is first lieutenant, and I forget what army unit, and the other one's like a staff sergeant as a supply sergeant in an army unit, active component. And then the third one is got out of the military, like served in the army in some form or fashion, and then his contract was up, and then he's working with one of the active component American Chinese soldiers to send the information to China. And it's not the first time. Like the Navy got caught with like 2 or 3 of them doing it. It's like, I've been thinking about this too. Now, internment camps are bad. You can't be doing internment camps for people that are Chinese. But at the same time, like, we're just going to ignore the fact that there's been a large uptick in Chinese Americans going in the U.S. Armed Forces and then sending information over back to China. Like, obviously, when they go through their whatever security clearance they have to go through, I think, if you put, yes, I'm Chinese, or, some sort of Asian, when you check the box, there's going to be somebody in a computer room, like your own little special FBI agent, that's going to go, all right, what are his family ties? What are his political ties? Where does he come from? Where does he go? How many times are you going to get? Joe.
I don't know the constitutionality of profiling soldiers by their race, but I get what you're saying.
I mean, profiling isn't bad, right? Profiles are normal. You can have a profile on a suicide bomber. You can have a profile on a serial killer, right? Profiling itself is normal. You check a box for a certain thing, all these boxes are checked, and the majority of them point to one direction or another based on historical data that's been collected, right? Profiling is one thing. Racial profiling is, yes, racial profiling is bad. Saying Asian guy, bad, wrong, right? Person with extra melanin, dumb, bad. Racial profiling, bad. However, if you are having a direct threat from China and you're having Chinese prior nationals or maybe even first generation American Chinese that are enlisting or joining the military in some form or fashion, and then I don't want to say defecting, but doing espionage basically for China, like you can't just ignore that.
Yeah, true. Well, especially if it's, they're involved in anything that would require like security clearance.
Yeah, well, one of them had like a security clearance. I think that was the officer, which is par for the course. Every officer gets a security clearance. And these people were caught, so something happened. Some sort of red flag happened.
Unless our guys caught it. Well, we're spying on them. Like because what's the Chinese intelligence agency? I don't even know the name of it off the top of my head.
Ooh, Google that. Tell me. Let's look it up.
The MSS, the Ministry of State Security. Oh, no. That can't be it.
Is the principal civilian intelligence and security service for the People's Republic of China, responsible for foreign intelligence, counterintelligence, and defense of the political and security and honor of the Chinese Communist Party.
I was going to say the hammer and sickle threw me off, but I forgot.
But they are communist.
Well, yeah, but they always use the star. The hammer and sickle I associate with the USSR.
Yeah, but this one's got a tiny little ball handle on it, so it's for the tiny rear hands.
It's a weird Chinese sickle.
It's for Chinese tiny rear hands.
Huh. Yeah, I wonder what they were sending that got them caught, or how they got caught, or what they were sending in general. I'm sure we'll never find out.
One of the things that they said, so no, they did in the story. They had 24 hard drives. Some of them marked secret and top secret. Some of them unclassified. But even then, unclassified documents, if you get enough of them, you still get a really good idea of what's going on. It's not like they're, what's it called? It's not unclassified. It's top secret, classified, need to know, whatever. But
I don't know all the terms.
There's a whole bunch of different security clearances. Like one's like top secret SSI or something like that, and that's where you have to get like a polygraph done. And it's a top secret. There's different ones. But yeah, so one of them had 12 hard drives, and they were sending over the files from the hard drives. Some of the hard drives were encrypted, and one of them had stolen an encrypted computer. So then you could decrypt the encrypted files, and they caught him with that.
Damn, I'm sure. Yeah, any information. They'd be happy to get any information. Because what's that one video game I can't remember the name of that those like dudes in the military keep posting, because it's such a like nerdy technical like simulation game.
Battlefield?
It's some. Nah, I'd know it if I heard it, but it's like really technical. It's made by some Japanese company, and everybody,
all of the something Thunder. Oh,
War Thunder. Is it War Thunder?
War Thunder.
Yeah, it has
I think it's Australian or Austrian or something like that. And they have, dude, I've done videos on that. They got leaks on there all the fucking time because idiots
everybody
try to show off to the internet.
They're like, no, actually, this the fuel canister is located 6 inches to the left of where they have it in the game. Here's the top secret specs for the vehicle.
Dude, one of them, one of the military or one of the American military guys that put out some shit about the Abrams was just like, actually, the turret can only move this quickly, and its viewpoint is this amount of degrees, like 67 degrees, and you have it as 62. So that's this compared to this stat that I have from the manual here. And like War Thunder is really good at taking it down right away, but the damage is already done. You know, somebody's already got it. It's already been screenshot. It's gone. And these idiots do it to like impress strangers on the fucking internet, which, you know, coming from us who are
the irony.
Content, you know,
that's what I do all day long. Try and impress strangers on the internet. But at least I don't accidentally or not purposely disclose state secrets to do it. I try to expose state secrets to do it. They're all just theories. I don't know I lost my train of thought on that.
But people say that it's Russian. That War Thunder is Russian.
It's a Russian game. I'll say because is that for sure the one that it is though that everybody's
it's War
Thunder.
Dude, I did videos on it. I know it's War Thunder.
I'll say because I know that everybody makes the joke too at SHOT Show with all of the Chinese people will like run around and they're just taking pictures of all of the new tech that's coming out, and it's like everybody knows what they're doing,
dude.
Because
I don't know how to fucking stop them, but like China doesn't give a shit. China just steals everything, and they're like, "What are you gonna do? We're stealing it, and we're gonna make it cheaper with our children in hot box factories, like
sweatshop hot box factories." Yeah. They're all in there smoking weed.
Make a sweatshop.
God damn, being a child factory worker sure is hard.
Man, I'm so high right now. I don't want to sew any more Nikes.
I had a joke, but I'm not gonna make it.
Do it.
It's racist.
Oh yeah, that's all right.
But
if it's just a joke, it has to be a joke though.
No, I'm not gonna say it.
All right, I won't push it.
It's worse than that. They did that with Yeti. There was a big lawsuit, just like intellectual property wise. Yeti, the like thermoses or whatever, the Chinese spies stole like the manufacturing process, and then they just made them for I think Walmart, and it was literally like one for one the exact same specs as a Yeti cup that they would sell for $45 or whatever, and it was like Ozark Trail, the Walmart camping brand or whatever, and they were selling them for like $8. It was a huge lawsuit, but it was just one of the factory workers there sold the information to China. So it's not just in the military, it's in the civilian world too.
There was a guy that was on you know who Sean Ryan is, the Sean Ryan podcast?
Yeah.
So there was a guy that was on the Sean Ryan podcast, and he's like some sort of brain when it comes to like contract negotiation between like large business entities. Like he's owned businesses, and he also is like the lawyer for large businesses, or at least legal representation. And he learned Mandarin, and he was in China for a while. And he was talking about on podcast how despicable Chinese business is to especially American innovation specifically, right? How they steal, and there's like no repercussions, and they don't care because it's all about China doing better than you. Fuck you. We're just going to take it and run with it. And one of the things that he talked about, along with like other stories of them straight up stealing intellectual property from, I think it was like Firestone and a couple other places, and just creating it on their own. I don't say on their own, but stealing it and then making it, and then,
making it cheaper,
like, hey, can we get a tour of your facility? We're going to do a lot of business with you. Tour, click, 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 click. All right, cool. Business gone. Bye-bye. And then they create whatever Firestone had. I think Firestone was one of them. But just in contract negotiations, one of his stories was how this Chinese company and how it was kind of par for the course for whenever they would get together and sign the contracts, that would allow whatever sort of business venture to go forward. Like, hey, we're done. We're signing contracts today. They would have large, like, signing press conferences where they would have, people show up from the business in China and the news there and the corporate news that's, recording it and saying, hey, we're moving forward, whatever. And he would sit down to sign the contract. And as he would sign it, like looking through it to read it, as one does because he's a good lawyer, he would look at it and see that they had like changed like the percentage, right? Like, let's say that they were supposed to get 10% for 10 billion. They made it like 15% for 5 billion, right? And he would be like, hey, this has changed. I can't sign this. And they would pressure him in front of everybody and be like, oh, there's so many people here. We've already talked about like doing this. Like, just sign it. It's okay. We're going to do business together. Like, who cares? Like, no, I can't sign this. This is not what we agreed on. This is something different. They'd be like, you need to sign it. Look at all these people. You have to sign it. You don't want to ruin our friendship. Do it. And like try to pressure him into it. And he got up and he was like, all right, cool. Well, you can tell all these people like I'm leaving. Bye. Then he gets up and he gets like to the front door and they're like, oh, okay, fine. Okay. Hey, listen. All right, we'll do what we agreed with. And then they went back to sit down and had the original contract that had the correct percentage and money value, etc., for him to sign. And he was like, that's not the first time that they've done it. He's like, I've talked to like this guy that is being interviewed by Sean Ryan. He's like, he's talked to other people where they like that is like par for the course. And they will like try to strong arm you into signing like contracts that heavily favor the Chinese organization that are not what you originally agreed on. And a lot of people fold. They're just like, oh, fuck. Well, we got to sign it.
That's what I was just talking to somebody last night. I don't know if I can say who, but he's like pretty high up, important dude in the government. And he was talking about in the government how like China is raping Africa right now.
For
like
mineral rights?
Yeah, minerals, and like they're basically doing what like Europe did to Africa in the 1800s. And then
like people think that Great Britain's bad because they went over and conquered most of Africa, a lot of southern Africa. And they're like, oh, they made these countries and apartheid and blah blah blah, like and that's really bad, from like 80 years ago, 50 years ago, before they gave up all their colonies. Like, you think that's bad? Wait till China gets there. China hates other Asians, hates them. They think Chinese are the master race. They're like Japan used to be in World War II. Like, they don't give a fuck about anybody else except for themselves. And they will ruin, they will poison your air and your land and your crops.
The strip mining and shit, they don't care.
There's a term called Chinese fishing. You know what I'm talking about? You ever hear that term?
No.
The Chinese fisherman term? If you go in somewhere and they're like, oh, you're going to be a Chinese fisherman or you're going to Chinese fishing it, you're Chinese fishing it. It basically means that, because China's done this in the past, where they'll go into an area, specifically we're talking about fishing because that's where the phrase came from. They'll go into an area and they'll fish until there is literally nothing left. Like,
yeah, I guess I have heard of that, just hadn't heard the term.
Yeah.
But
dude, I got a guy who's called William Jefferson Clinton with Bill Clinton's face on it in the chat. He's hysterical. He comments on all my shit. And when he pops up, I always see it as like Bill Clinton talking to me. And he did the Asian guy, don't trust the China. China asshole.
China asshole. Shitty walk. Well, let's say the British weren't that bad, or comparatively in Africa, the Dutch were really bad, which, speaking of the Chinese and the Dutch, this dude that I was talking to was putting the Greenland purchase into perspective. Because everybody thinks like when they hear that, they like it's a ha 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 silly joke.
But from a national defense standpoint, it's actually a really good like thing.
Strategically and for minerals. I didn't realize, and well, I don't know that I can actually say this, so I take that back. But yeah, it's like the national defense wise, it's especially as the shipping ports are melting up there. Like as the ice is starting to melt up there, apparently there's going to be like a new shipping lane that everybody, like all the world powers, are basically in contest for. And so, plus Greenland wants to be independent from Denmark, so striking up a deal with Denmark.
Yeah,
I said the Dutch earlier.
The Kingdom of Denmark owns Greenland.
Yeah, I said the Dutch a second ago, but I meant the Danes. But one of the thoughts too is to get Greenland to just become an independent country, and then we just throw a shitload of money at them so they give us what we want. because they're like nobody lives there. The population is like 100,000 or something crazy small.
I think it's I was gonna say like 500,000, but it's it's not. It's a very small populated country, dude. Being an American, it's hard for me to understand sometimes the independence of nations, especially when it's a nation like Greenland, who I don't even think has a military.
No, I think they're entirely defended by Denmark.
Right? Like these countries that don't have a military, they're defended by other countries. But I think it's cool and that ethnic populations, like different ethnicities, have their own home, space, country.
You heard it here. You heard it here, folks. Rich High supports ethno-states.
Well, I mean, like that's what we tried to do with Iraq. Like we tried to make it like basically a tri-state kind of thing with the Sunni Shia and then the Kurdish. And the Kurdish had northern Iraq and southern Turkey. And like the Kurdish are constantly at war with Turkey, but like the Americans, and they want their own ethno-state. Like they're just like, hey, these are our people, this is our land. These are arbitrary lines that cut our ethnic groups in areas in half. So like I understand how like ethno-states happen and how people want their own independence. I don't understand, however, how nations can exist without an ability to defend themselves from other nations, because all of human history has been larger kingdoms, whatever's, conquering nations that cannot conquer themselves and being like, hey, you're a satellite state of us. Sure, you can be Greenland, but you're ours, and you will follow our rules, because if you don't, then we already have overtaken you. We impose the law in your land. And so it's really, I don't understand how, other than just niceties, how we can have nations so small that they can't defend themselves somehow remain a nation. It's one of the things that like it boggles my mind.
If daddy country is big enough to kind of big dick people away from taking you, I mean, because like
nobody owns Panama. Panama's its own thing. How is Nicaragua not taken over Panama yet? How are all these like tiny ass little Rhode Island sized countries that are independent of one another, that have like a police force and that's it? Like, how are they surviving without somebody just going, that's mine now?
Well, the threat of international pushback, I guess. Like fucking Russia trying to take over Ukraine.
Yeah, look how well that's fucking doing. I mean, it's at a stalemate at the moment, you know. But at the same time, if it wasn't Russia and Ukraine being like on NATO's border, like, let's use Panama again. What if we freed Panama, we helped them with the canal, we spent millions and millions and millions of dollars back then, which means probably billions or trillions now. Hundreds of Americans lost their lives creating the canal. And Panama's like, we gave it back to them in like the 90s or something because Jimmy Carter was like, we should give it back to them.
In the 70s.
Like, fuck you. That should have been a territory. If we're going to fucking spend that amount of time in such a minute country, we might as well just make it a territory. I have no idea how we haven't.
Yeah, well, like Guantanamo Bay. Like, we just own part of Cuba.
Right?
Like, we're not giving it to them. I guess it's because the Panamanians, we like get along with them politically. But then, I mean, well, that's part of the Trump thing too, is trying to get it back. Which, so far as I've heard, he was basically like we'll offer to buy it, and if they don't sell it, then we're just gonna fucking show up, because we sold it to him for $1, like ceremonially.
Yeah.
Because it was originally on a 100-year lease, which
was it
then
100 years?
I think it was 100 years, which
so
it was
we made
built
it in 1870. Wait,
no. He gave it up. It was built in.
Bill Clinton,
it was
right?
during Teddy Roosevelt. So it was like 1908 would be my guess. Kind of pulling that out of my ass, but it feels right to pull things out of my ass. I mean,
1979. So it would have been like.
Well, but he just gave it to him. The lease wasn't expired yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, 1999.
Oh, it's 99.
So so it stated that Panama Canal Zone would cease to exist in 1979, and the canal itself would be turned over to the Panamanians on 99. These two treaties were signed in 1977. It took more than 6 months before the Senate voted.
Oh,
so Carter gave it away?
He gave it away in the 70s. What, 30 or 20 years later, 30 years later? Because I swear when we built it originally, I thought it was on a 100-year lease. Maybe I...
History.com. I'm looking it up right now. We've upgraded our terms. I don't care. Stroke of noon on December 31st, 1999. Panama flag was raised over the Panama Canal. Low point in U.S. Panamanian in 1964 when clashes began in the Panama Canal Zone over the flying of a Panamanian flag alongside a U.S. flag at a local high school. Are you fucking serious? The country erupted in widespread riots, and 22 Panamanians were killed by U.S. troops. And Panama cut off diplomatic relations with America? That's a fucking inside job. One day, a school put a flag next to the U.S. flag, and then the country erupted in widespread riots?
Yeah, because originally, apparently the agreement originally is that we had a permanent lease on the land, and then Carter gave it over to him.
Lyndon B. Johnson started to negotiate a deal for ceding the canal to Panama, but then Jimmy Carter was the one who signed it, who overcame political opposition to sign the treaty.
Yeah, because I don't even know what the argument would be for moving away from that. I guess it's probably some bullshit, anti-imperialist, whatever. But again, like, we own part of
So
Cuba.
Teddy Roosevelt signed a treaty in 1903 when Panama was 15 days old that the isthmus be ruled by Colombia, but the Colombian government was reeling from a civil war, and the Roosevelt administration saw the opportunity. So they they promised to support Panama in its independence for exchange on rights to the Panama Canal and operate it as a sovereign U.S.-run canal zone. Completed in 1914. So we didn't even have it for 100 years. It was created in 1914, which is the year that World War I kicked off, but we didn't get involved until later, like 1915.
Yeah. I think we didn't get until like 17. We showed up at the very end and won.
According to the 1903 treaty, created the 15-mile long, 10-mile wide canal zone. Interesting. Deadly fights over the flag. In the 50s, the Panamanian government brought a long list of complaints to the Eisenhower administration. Of a unifying symbol. But the unifying symbol of all Panama's dissatisfaction with American control of the canal became the flag, specifically the exclusive display of the American flag in the canal zone. In 1959, there were anti-American riots in the Panamanian city over America's refusal to fly the Panamanian flag in the canal zone because it was an American canal zone.
Yeah, it's our land. That was the agreement. Huh.
So then JFK's back, went further and signed an executive order saying that both the American and Panamanian flags should be flown at all non-military sites in the canal zone, including schools. Oh, but a lot of the locals refused the order and would not fly the flag in their school.
Oh, the Panamanians wouldn't fly the American flag.
Correct.
Is what I'm hearing out of that. Which is crazy that there are schools in the region. The thing I just read said it was 10 miles, like the amount of land that we owned.
Yeah, they said there's like 60,000 people that were living in like the 10-mile canal zone because it's 10 miles wide.
Wide.
Yep.
Because, I mean, how long is the Panama Canal?
10 miles. Or, I'm sorry, 55 miles. 51 miles long is the Panama Canal, and it's 10 miles wide.
That was a decent hunk of land.
So we helped you get your independence. We were going to give you to Colombia, but Colombia was in a civil war. So we said, hey, how about we be your buddy and you create your own nation, and we'll support you. And in trade for that, we're going to own the canal that we put through with our blood, sweat, and tears from now until whenever. So you get American protection, American goods, tons of shipping and shit through here. I'm sure they're getting paid to use the canal. There's some sort of other economic benefit. And then in the 50s, they're like, you know what? Fuck you, America, for everything that you gave us, including this country. Instead of just making us a fucking territory. No, you know what? Fuck you. Thanks for nothing. We want.
I was going to say, that's a weird way of saying thank you.
We're not going to fly your flag after 40 years. Fuck you now. Dude, 40 fucking years. And then they're like, they started shit. And then 60 years later, less than.
You want it back. That's a reverse Shanghai.
They start the treaty to like get it back.
I'm surprised that they bowed down to that. Yeah, it's the reverse Shanghai when Britain owned Shanghai for 100 years, and then they went to go give it back, and everybody who lived there was like, no, we do not want to be part of China.
No.
And so they re-signed another agreement. China asked how.
Isn't that amazing? Oh, China's so great. China's so amazing. The second that a country was going to be given back to them, or like a portion of land, they were like, don't. Please don't. Please, for the love of God. We visited there. We don't want to live there.
Have you seen the place? God, everybody I know who's been to China has said it's the worst place in the world.
I'd like to go.
You can't breathe the air.
I'd like to go, but I'd rather go other places. I got family in the Philippines, so I want to go to the Philippines. I'd like to go to Vietnam, just because I hear like the food is amazing. A lot of the people understand English. There's like a lot of like people that are trying to learn English, so like Americans will go there for a job, but then teach English there. Like, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm here as a janitor or something, and then they'll stay there illegally and get paid by like a school to teach the
English,
the Vietnamese English.
I know somebody who went to Vietnam for a month. He had $1,000 and he survived, lived like a king off of $1,000 for a month.
You could spend if you spend $20 a day on food, you're living large.
Living like a king.
You can live pretty darn good. Like you're eating like solid mom pa shop restaurant food. Like, hey man, here's $5 for breakfast, $5 for lunch, $10 for dinner, and you're doing good. You know, you're going to your normal mom pa shop over there. You do $50 a day, $5 lunch, $10 or $5 breakfast, $10 lunch, fucking $30 for dinner. Bro, you got leftovers. You're crushing it. I don't even know what the rent is over there. But yeah, I'd like to go over there because, you know, the American dollar goes long there. A lot of people enjoy the American tourism.
That's what just got invited to South Africa. I think that'd be kind of cool.
To fight for the Boers?
Not safari stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I don't even have a passport, so our country's big enough.
Hey man, you want to fight some elephants or some shit, man? You could just go to fucking Texas.
Yeah, we got wildlife sanctuaries like crazy. I was driving up to Dallas, and I took like a back road. I was just cruising, listening to music, and then like had one of those like double take what the fuck moments, because there was a herd of giraffe right off the side of the road next to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was just they have all the wildlife sanctuaries down here, and like hunting, because that's what's the Joe Rogan joke about there are more tigers in the state of Texas than there are in the wild. Yeah, that's fucking insane. Because there aren't any laws about what animals you can own down here, and the climate is like almost identical to the like the savannah in Africa. There's a place right by here that has rhinos and stuff.
I've heard of like rhinos and stuff in like Texas land. This guy says that his neighbor, when going back to Panama, had a neighbor that was stationed at the Panama Canal when they closed down, with some interesting stories of having to pack up to leave. So many service members had all their shit stolen.
What
the fuck?
That was in the 99, you said?
99. December 31st, I think it said at noon in 1999, the Panamanian Canal was officially handed over to Panama.
I'm surprised that they wouldn't, I'm gonna have to look into that and see like why they wanted it or like exclusive control over it.
Like, how did we fold? How did America, like, once again, this goes back to like a nation that can't even defend itself. How did like we go?
What are you gonna do about it?
Right? Like, oh, hey, what's going on, Panama? Like, hey, we don't want you here, man. What do you mean? We want you out of here. Why? We got all this. We dumped so much money in this place. We helped you there. Yeah, we just want you gone, though. We're big and strong. It's like a fucking teenager. You know, I can fight you.
I can fight you, Dad.
I'll fight you, Dad. Fuck you.
Fuck you, Dad.
Like,
we should have backfilled it when we left. Just fill it back in.
We should have closed it down. We should have been like, sweet, we're gonna weld all the gates closed.
Fill it with concrete.
Fill it with cum.
Okay.
Just fucking have everybody just beat off into it. Just a river of cum. Nobody can get through it. Fellers get all fucking stuck.
The Panama Canal. Oh, shoot.
Shit. You know what? The Panama Canal. I think that's a good spot to end it. So you know what? On that note, I appreciate you coming on. We talked a good amount about like conspiracy theories and some of where they came from and a lot of other random shit, but we did stick to our topic, which is an oddity here. Normally I'll be like, hey, I want to talk about this, and then we fly off the handle. We kept coming back to some good stuff.
I was going to say, I felt like it circled back a lot. My schizophrenic ADD brain, it was all over the place, but...
Oh my God. I'll tell you a story. We'll shut this down and I'll tell you a quick story. All right. King Trout, tell everybody where they can find you on the Instagrams, the YouTubes, all the fantastic things to see your ridiculous, obnoxious, yet charming face.
Oh, thank you. So I'm King Trout, King_Trout on Instagram, YouTube, and then the King Trout on X if you want to check me out there. Thanks for having me, Rich.
No, you're welcome, brother. Glad you could come on. All right, gang. Every week, I'm back. Every week. Just depends on the day. See you next time.